I never thought I'd be telling this story. But some things stay with you, no matter how much you try to forget. Some memories sink so deep into your skin that no amount of time can wash them away. My story isn't pretty, and it isn't easy to hear. If you choose to listen, don't say I didn't warn you. Before I begin, I need to warn you, this story contains mature themes. It deals with family relationships, trust, and infidelity. If these topics make you uncomfortable, you might want to stop listening now. I was born into a house full of rules. My father, Harrison Mendoza, believed discipline was the answer to everything. He was the kind of man who spoke in short, firm sentences and expected obedience without question. If he said dinner was at 7, you were at the table at 7. If he told you to be home by 9, the door was locked at 9:01. No exceptions. No explanations. My mother, Cora Harrington, was different. Not softer, just distant. It was like she lived in a separate world from the rest of us. She moved through the house like a ghost, always occupied but never present. If I asked her a question, she'd answer without looking up. If I needed comfort, her arms felt stiff, like she wasn't sure what to do with them. My father was the voice of authority. My mother was the sound of silence. We weren't a warm family. Love, if it existed, was something unspoken. There were no bedtime stories, no Sunday morning pancakes, no long hugs just because. I learned early that emotions made people uncomfortable. Tears made my father angry. Excitement made my mother tired. So, I learned to keep everything inside. I didn't realize how much that shaped me until I got older. I grew up craving something I couldn't name. Affection? Validation? Maybe just the feeling of being wanted. But when you don't learn love in childhood, you don't know how to recognize it as an adult. You mistake attention for care. You mistake control for security. You mistake attraction for something deeper. By the time I hit my 20s, relationships felt like a foreign language I could never quite speak fluently. I had been with a few people, but something always felt off. Like I was missing some fundamental piece of knowledge that everyone else had. I never felt truly comfortable, truly confident. I wondered if there was something wrong with me. Maybe I just wasn't built for intimacy. Or maybe I just hadn't learned how to do it right. Then, there was Omari Underwood. He was different. Kind, patient, someone who actually listened when I spoke. He made me feel safe in a way I wasn't used to. But safety didn't erase insecurity. It didn't change the way my body stiffened when things became physical. It didn't stop the voice in my head that whispered, "You're not doing this right. You're not good enough." I wanted to be better. For him. For myself. So I started looking for answers the only way I knew how, through a screen. Late at night, when the house was quiet, I searched for videos, tutorials, anything that could teach me what I felt I was missing. It wasn't just curiosity. It was desperation. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be good at something that had always made me feel small. I wanted to stop feeling like I was failing. But I never expected to get caught. If you're still with me, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like this. Trust me, there's so much more to uncover. The house was quiet. That kind of quiet that settles deep, making you feel like you're the only person left in the world. I liked it that way. It made things easier. It gave me space to be whoever I wanted to be, without eyes watching, without questions I didn't know how to answer. I had been in my room for over an hour, my laptop balanced on my thighs, the screen casting a soft glow over my skin. The door was closed. The sound was low. I had checked at least 3 times to make sure no one was home. I was safe. Or at least, I thought I was. I wasn't watching for fun. This wasn't about curiosity. This was research, or at least, that's what I told myself. I wasn't good at this, intimacy, relationships, the things that everyone else seemed to understand without trying. I had spent too much time second-guessing myself, wondering if I was doing something wrong, if I was supposed to feel different than I did. And I was tired of feeling like I wasn't enough. So I watched. I studied. I paid attention to every detail, every movement, every whispered instruction. I wanted to be better. For Omari. For myself. For once, I wanted to feel like I knew what I was doing. Then, it happened. A knock. A creak. Footsteps. And my father's voice. Chana? It took a second for the panic to register, a slow, creeping horror that hit me like ice water down my spine. My fingers fumbled over the keyboard, scrambling to close the window, but it was too late. The damage was done. I turned, my breath stuck somewhere in my throat. And there he was. Harrison Mendoza. My father. Standing in the doorway. Watching me. Time stretched in that moment, each second feeling impossibly long. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. I had no idea what I expected: anger, disgust, a lecture that would make me wish I had never been born. But none of that came. Instead, my father just stood there. Studying me. I didn't expect to walk in on this, he said, his voice strangely calm. I couldn't look at him. My face burned, my stomach twisted itself into knots. I felt exposed, humiliated, like a child who had been caught doing something unforgivable. He took a step inside. I pressed my back against the headboard, suddenly feeling like there wasn't enough space between us. You're not in trouble, he continued. But I have to admit, I'm surprised. I wanted to disappear. To sink into the mattress, to erase this moment from existence. But I couldn't. The air between us felt thick, heavy with something I didn't want to name. I thought you weren't home, I managed to say, my voice barely more than a whisper. He exhaled through his nose. I wasn't. Just got back. He looked at the laptop. Then back at me. So. Want to tell me what that was about? I shook my head quickly. It's nothing. Just stupid stuff. Didn't look like nothing. I squeezed my eyes shut, gripping the blanket beneath me like it could somehow ground me. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Chana. I forced myself to look up. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even annoyed. If anything, he looked curious. And somehow, that was worse. If you wanted to know about this kind of stuff, he said, why didn't you just ask? I blinked. Asked? Like it was that simple? I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Who was I supposed to ask? Someone you trust. I swallowed hard. Trust? The word felt foreign in my mouth. Like something I had never really learned the meaning of. I hesitated, the words catching in my throat before I could force them out. I've always been bad at this. At relationships. At knowing what I'm doing. And I don't want to be. I just wanted to understand. He nodded slowly, as if considering my words. Then, he leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees. And? Did you learn anything? I exhaled shakily. Not enough. There was a pause. A silence so heavy I could feel the weight of it pressing against my chest. Then, his voice, softer this time. Maybe I can help. The air in the room changed. Or maybe it was just me. Maybe it was the way he was looking at me, his expression unreadable, his posture relaxed, like this wasn't strange at all. But it was strange. It was wrong. And yet, I didn't move. My father sat back slightly, one arm draped over the headboard, his fingers tapping idly against the wood. His voice stayed even, calm, like we were discussing something as simple as a school project. I think, he said slowly, that men like certain things. Things that can't always be learned from a screen. I felt my stomach tighten. My hands curled into fists in my lap. He was testing me. Seeing how I would react. I should have laughed it off. Changed the subject. Gotten up, left the room, anything to break whatever was happening between us. But I didn't. I couldn't. I don't know what kept me sitting there, staring at him like I was waiting for him to take it back. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was something else. I heard myself speak before I had the chance to stop it. You think you could teach me? His gaze didn't waver. His fingers still tapped lazily against the headboard. I think, he said, that experience is the best teacher. My stomach was in knots. My hands felt clammy. The room felt too small, too hot, the walls pressing in on me. He leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now. I could show you. My breath hitched. I should have said no. I should have ended the conversation. I should have left. But I didn't. And that was the moment everything changed. The air between us felt different now. Charged. Unspoken words tangled in the silence, growing heavier by the second. My father's face was unreadable, his posture relaxed in a way that only made the tension worse. I wanted to move. To shift, to break eye contact, to do anything that might snap me out of whatever spell had settled over the room. But I didn't. I stayed exactly where I was, heart pounding, mind racing, something deep in my gut telling me that I should be asking questions I wasn't sure I wanted the answers to. Experience is the best teacher, he had said. And now those words echoed in my head, over and over, twisting themselves into something I couldn't quite grasp. I swallowed hard, my voice barely more than a whisper. What do you mean? His fingers tapped lightly against the headboard, his expression still calm. I mean, sometimes it's better to learn from someone who knows. A lump formed in my throat. I couldn't tell if it was from unease or something else. I let out a shaky breath. This feels weird. His gaze held steady. Why? The question sent a chill down my spine. Because I shouldn't have to explain why. Because I should have left the room already. Because the fact that I was still here meant something I wasn't ready to face. I forced a laugh, though it came out hollow. I don't know. It just does. He tilted his head slightly. You don't have to be nervous. I'm not, I said too quickly. But it wasn't true. I was nervous. About the conversation, about myself, about the way the walls seemed to be closing in. I shook my head. I don't think this is a good idea. Something flickered across his face, too quick for me to name. But then he leaned back, his hands resting loosely in his lap. All right, he said simply. He didn't push. Didn't argue. And somehow, that made it worse. I didn't know then what I know now. That my father had his own wounds. His own ghosts. That before I was even born, something inside of him had already started to crack. I imagine him younger, standing in the doorway of another bedroom, looking at my mother the way he had just looked at me, searching for something unspoken. Cora Harrington was beautiful. Not in the way that turned heads in crowded rooms, but in the way that made you stare when she wasn't looking. She carried herself like a woman who had already seen too much of the world and wasn't interested in being impressed anymore. My father had loved her once. I know that much. There must have been a time when they were happy. A time when their laughter filled the house, when her eyes softened when she looked at him, when his hands found her waist in the kitchen just because he couldn't help himself. But love, if you don't take care of it, spoils like milk left out in the sun. And by the time I was old enough to notice, there was nothing left between them but distance and obligation. I remember being 6 years old, watching from the hallway as they sat across from each other at the dinner table, saying nothing. The silence between them was louder than any argument they could have had. By the time I was 10, my mother had stopped waiting for him to come home at night. By the time I was 15, I realized they weren't really married anymore. Not in the way that mattered. And now, as I sat on my bed, my father looking at me like I was someone he wasn't sure how to talk to, I wondered if I reminded him of her. If that's why the air felt so heavy. If that's why his voice had that edge of something almost desperate. Maybe my father had been drowning for a long time. Maybe he was just looking for something to hold on to. I pulled my legs up, wrapping my arms around them, trying to make myself small. My head felt too full. My thoughts were running too fast. This was my father. This was the man who had raised me, who had taught me how to ride a bike, who had warned me not to trust people too easily. But then why did this feel like something else? I needed to say something. Anything. Is this wrong? I finally asked. My voice was so quiet I wasn't even sure he heard me. He was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, that depends. I frowned. On what? He exhaled slowly, like he was thinking about his next words carefully. On how you feel about it. Something about that answer made my stomach twist. It was like handing me a loaded gun and asking if I wanted to pull the trigger. I should have ended the conversation. I should have walked out of the room. But I didn't. Because part of me wanted to understand. Not just what was happening, but why. Why my father looked at me like he was seeing something I couldn't. Why my chest felt tight, like something had shifted inside of me. Why I couldn't seem to make myself leave. My fingers tightened around the blanket. I think I should go. His lips parted slightly, as if he was going to say something else. But then, after a moment, he just nodded. I slid off the bed, my heart pounding as I walked toward the door. And just before I stepped out, I heard him say, so softly I almost thought I imagined it, "You know where to find me if you change your mind." I didn't look back. But I knew that this wasn't over. Not yet. Secrets have weight. They press against your chest, settle into the corners of your mind, whisper to you when you're alone. And once you learn something you were never meant to know, there's no unlearning it. I wish I had never walked into that room. I wish I had never picked up that phone. But most of all, I wish my father had been a different kind of man. It started with a sound. A soft vibration, coming from the edge of the dresser. I hadn't been looking for anything. I was just there, standing in my parents' bedroom, lost in my thoughts, when I heard it. My father's phone, screen lighting up with a name I didn't recognize. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. And that was the moment everything fell apart. The message was short. A name, Esme Stein, and 5 words that made my stomach turn. Same place tonight? I miss you. I stared at the screen, my breath caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. My hands felt cold. My skin prickled. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I had never seen the name before. But I knew what it meant. I knew what it meant. I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not the next day. I kept the secret pressed against my ribs, pretending it wasn't eating me alive. But I started watching him differently. I saw the way he checked his phone when he thought no one was looking. The way he left the house without saying where he was going. The way his wedding ring seemed to disappear and reappear as if it didn't belong to him at all. And I started to wonder, had my mother always known? Had she spent years looking the other way? Or was she just as blind as I had been? Omari noticed something was wrong before I even said a word. "You've been quiet lately," he said one evening, watching me carefully. "Is everything okay?" I wanted to tell him. I wanted to tell someone. But the words felt stuck, tangled up in everything else I had been feeling. Yeah, I lied. Just tired. He didn't believe me. I could see it in his face. But he didn't push. And that, somehow, made it worse. Days passed, and my father barely looked at me. I didn't know if he sensed that I knew. Maybe guilt was eating at him, the same way it was eating at me. Or maybe he just didn't care. I thought about my mother. About all the years she had spent in that house, cooking meals, folding laundry, going through the motions of a life that wasn't as perfect as it seemed. And I thought about myself. I had always believed that love was supposed to be a safe place. That when you found the right person, you were supposed to trust them, to give them parts of yourself no one else could see. But now, I wasn't sure anymore. Because if my father, the man I had looked up to, the man who had taught me right from wrong, was capable of this, then what did that mean for me? For Omari? For love? One night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I had spent so much time trying to understand relationships, trying to be better, trying to prove that I was enough. But maybe the problem wasn't me. Maybe I had been raised in a house built on broken foundations. Maybe my father's mistakes had been shaping me all along. And maybe it was time to stop letting them. There are moments in life where you have to make a choice. Stand still and pretend nothing happened, or face the truth, even if it destroys everything you thought you knew. For days, I let the weight of my father's secret sit inside me like a stone, heavy and unmoving. I told myself I could ignore it, that it wasn't my problem, that whatever my father did behind closed doors had nothing to do with me. But that was a lie. Because it did affect me. It changed the way I looked at him. It made me question everything. And I couldn't pretend otherwise anymore. I found him in the living room one evening, his back to me, staring at his phone like he was waiting for something. Or someone. "Dad," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. He turned, his expression unreadable. "Yeah?" I hesitated, then took a breath. Was it worth it? His brow furrowed. Was what worth it? I clenched my fists. The lies. The secrets. The betrayal. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought he was going to deny it. Brush it off like it was nothing. But instead, he exhaled and rubbed his temple like he was tired of the conversation before it had even begun. "I don't know what you think you saw, I saw enough," I cut in. "I saw the texts. I saw the way you sneak around." "I know, Dad. So just, tell me the truth." "Why?" He sighed, shaking his head. "It's not that simple, Chana." "Yes, it is," I shot back. "You made a choice. You had a family, a wife, a life that you built, and you threw it away. And for what? For something exciting? For something easy?" His expression darkened. "You don't understand." I let out a bitter laugh. "You're right. I don't. Because I could never do what you did. I could never look someone in the eye, tell them I love them, and then turn around and betray them." For the first time, I saw something flicker across his face, guilt, maybe. Or regret. But it didn't matter. Because regret doesn't erase actions. Regret doesn't fix the damage. He ran a hand through his hair, his voice lower now. "I never meant to hurt anyone." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "But you did." The room felt unbearably heavy. I knew I wouldn't get the answer I wanted. I knew he would never fully admit what he had done. And I knew, at that moment, that I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. "I need space," I said finally. He stiffened. "What does that mean?" "It means I can't be around you right now." His face twisted, just slightly, like the words stung more than he expected. But he didn't argue. Maybe he knew there was nothing he could say to fix it. So I turned and walked away, leaving behind the man I had once trusted more than anyone. Some wounds don't heal. Some just scar over, a reminder of what was lost. I broke up with Omari that same week. Not because I didn't care about him, but because I realized I didn't even know who I was yet. I had spent so much time trying to be what someone else wanted, trying to understand love from the outside in, that I never stopped to ask myself what I actually wanted. I needed time. Space. A chance to start over. So I packed a bag. I found a place of my own. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to please anyone but myself. My parents' marriage didn't survive. Maybe it had been falling apart for years, and I had just been too blind to see it. Maybe my father's affair was just the final crack in something that had already been broken. But my mother didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just signed the papers, packed her bags, and left without looking back. And maybe that was the most powerful thing she could have done. People talk about infidelity like it's just about the act itself. The betrayal, the broken promises. But it's more than that. It changes everything. It changes how you see love, how you see trust, how you see yourself. For a long time, I thought love was about proving something. About being good enough, wanted enough. But now I realize love is about knowing when to walk away. Knowing when to put yourself first. And maybe, just maybe, it's about realizing that some lessons hurt, but they teach you who you are. So now, I have a question for you. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have confronted him? Would you have kept the secret? Or would you have walked away from everything you thought you knew? Let me know in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Because here's the thing about betrayal, it doesn't just break trust. It makes you question yourself. And that's the hardest part to fix.